or hold my nose, and go through Miss Shepherd's possessions. To do the job properly would have required a team of archaeologists. Every surface was covered in layers of old clothes, frocks, blankets, and accumulated papers, some of them undisturbed for years, and all lying under a crust of ancient talcum powder. Sprinkled impartially over wet slippers, used incontinence pads, and half-eaten tins of baked beans, it was of a virulence that supplemented rather than obliterated the distinctive odour of the van. The narrow aisle between the two banks of seats where Miss Shepherd had knelt, prayed, and slept was trodden 6 inches deep in sodden debris, on which lay a top dressing of old food, Mr. Kipling cakes, wrinkled apples, rotten oranges, and everywhere batteries. Batteries loose, batteries in packets, batteries that had split and oozed black gum onto the prehistoric sponge cakes and ubiquitous sherbet lemons that they lay among. A handkerchief round my face, I lifted one of the banquettes where in the hollow beneath she told me her bank books were hidden. The underside of the seat was alive with moths and maggots, but the books were there, together with other documents she considered valuable. An MOT certificate for her Reliant, long expired, a receipt for some repairs to it done 3 years before, an offer of a fortnight of sun and sea in the Seychelles that came with some car wax. What there was not was the envelope. So there was nothing for it but to excavate the van, to go through the festering debris in the hope of finding the note she'd promised to leave, and with it, perhaps, her history. Searching the van, I was not just looking for the envelope. Sifting the accumulated refuse of 15 years, I was hoping for some clue as to what it was that had happened to make Miss Shepherd want to live like this. Except that I kept coming across items that suggested that living like this wasn't all that different from the way people ordinarily lived. There was a set of matching kitchen utensils, for instance, a ladle, a spatula, a masher for potatoes, all of them unused. They were the kind of thing my mother bought and hung up in the kitchen just for show, while she went on using the battered old faithful she kept in the knife drawer. There were boxes of cheap soap, and of course talcum powder, their cellophane wrapping unbreached. They too had counterparts in the dressing-table drawer at home. Another item my mother hoarded was toilet rolls, and here were a dozen. There was a condiment set still in its box. When, amid such chaos, can she have hoped to use that particular appurtenance of gentility? But when did we ever use ours, stuck permanently in the sideboard cupboard, in readiness for the social life my parents never had or ever really wanted? The more I laboured, the less peculiar the van seemed, its proprieties and aspirations no different from those with which I'd been brought up. There was cash here too. In a bag Miss Shepherd carried round her neck there had been nearly £500, and peeling off the soggy layers from the van floor, I collected about £100 more. Taking into account the money in various building societies and her national savings certificates, Miss Shepherd had managed to save some £6,000. Since she was not entitled to a pension, most of this must have been gleaned from the meagre allowance she got from the DHSS. I'm not sure whether under the present regime she would have been praised for her thrift or singled out as a sponger. Arch-Tory though she was, she seems a prime candidate for Mr. Lilly's little list, a paid-up member of the Something-for-Nothing Society. I would just like to have seen him tell her so. Modest though Miss Shepherd's estate was, it was more than I'd been expecting, and made the finding of the envelope more urgent. So I went through the old clothes again, this time feeling gingerly in the pockets and shaking out the greasy blankets in a blizzard of moth and French fern. But there was nothing, only her bus pass, the grim photograph looking as if it were taken during the siege of Stalingrad, and hardly auguring well for the comedy series she'd once suggested I write on the subject. I was about to give up, having decided she must have kept the envelope on her, and that it had been taken away with the body, when I came upon it, stiff with old soup, and tucked into the glove compartment along with another cache of batteries and sherbet lemons, and marked, "Mr. Bennett, if necessary." Still looking for some explanation,